Bolton Master Plan Steering Committee meeting of March 9th, 2023. Let's get started. We do have a quorum, so this makes it an official meeting. First agenda point is review and approval of the previous meetings minutes that Mr. Troop so kindly put together, as always. Do I hear a motion?
I move we approve the minutes.
And a second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous. Thank you very much. And thank you, Ken. It's one thing to talk about the old days when it comes to town government, but there's certainly an element of that left when we take care of our own minutes. Okay. First of all, I hope everybody's seen the information that Olivia Knightley put out. And basically that was as a result of Molly has joined us. Hold on. She is connecting. Hi, Molly. I think she's
Molly, we want to see your smiling face.
There she goes. I'm sure she'll be
You're
right.
at
Take her
away.
off, Fanny.
You scared her away. I see how this.
Hey, Bob, could I actually just ask, because I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss anything, because those materials were sent through Mimecast, I think.
Right.
Right. So what I saw was basically 6 PDFs.
Right.
Most of them were 1-page PDF like images, and then there was a 2-page rollout document. Am I missing anything?
No, that's it.
Okay.
And that's what we had talked about in the last meeting. And I think Molly is now trying to get back to us again. And that's what we had discussed, looking for basically an overall approach to rollout, and then the documentation that would be appropriate for each element of that rollout plan, which is what in fact she provided. So the first thing I think we need to do, and probably the most important thing, is determine how we're going to do this. It's fine for our consultants to put together the information and the graphics, which I thought were quite good. I'm sorry to hear that Kia isn't going to be able to join us, but she's up to her eyeballs and probably would have some perspective on the graphics. But I think we need to go with what we've got, unless there are any comments to the contrary. And that would mean going out with flyers, going out with social media, putting it up on the Conveyo website, and getting it into the printed matter on the item and on the Stowe Bolton Independent. So it's, dare I say, it's as simple as that. And I would like to split up the responsibility for doing that. Now, Ed, who is with us and apparently hears us,
Indeed.
has become, or has been, expert in Facebook, and is about to be so in Instagram, which are now connected through Meta. So I understand that's becoming a much more straightforward operation these days. We have a Facebook page. My understanding is that we would have to create an Instagram page, but that's fairly straightforward. Abby had suggested that, and didn't suggest, she said point blank, that there's no way of transferring that because it's in her name, it's hers personally, and we would have to create our own. And with another organization I'm involved in, I'm going through exactly the same thing.
Right.
So it's as simple as putting that stuff up on the Facebook and up on Instagram simultaneously. And if I recall correctly from my conversation last night with another group, there is a direct connection. If you put something up on Facebook, it will immediately appear on Instagram. If you could check into that, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
With Meta, apparently it's substantially simpler than it used to be with the individual social media.
Who is authorized to use the Facebook page right now? Normally, there's an administrator account.
I believe I have the information that Abby sent.
Okay,
We could put you into that position very simply, and I'll definitely do that.
okay,
as we Get off this call. So if you could put the information that she had designated for Facebook and Instagram up on that, that would be good. Then we need to take the documentation, the write-up that she had put together for print media and get those out. First of all, to Cindy Bremer for the Stowe Bolton Independent. And Cindy takes stuff pretty much direct. She'll do some editing, she'll discuss it with us. And I found that's the best approach, to send it to her and then have a conversation about her thoughts on the best way to do that. We've done it in the past. I think as several people on this call know, in putting up topical information that has come out of the individual task groups. But she had done a nice job in not necessarily editing that.
okay.
Okay.
I was just sharing in the chat. I don't know if I misheard you in saying that we needed to set up an Instagram page, but we actually have a pre-existing Bolton Master Plan Steering Committee Instagram account.
I'm
So
getting,
it's-
that link is broken. Message myself.
It might be because if you're not logged into Instagram, but it shows up for me.
Okay.
I don't know if Stasha, if you're on Instagram, but
I'm not. I'm so old school.
Okay, and that's.
I'm like
I think,
Facebook
Brian,
baby.
I may have misinterpreted that. That's pretty much what Abby said. Unless you're on Instagram, you can't do anything with that. So
Okay,
probably the best thing for Ed to do is to get on Instagram.
right.
or at least do you know who set up the Instagram account, Bob? Was it Abby?
Yeah, Abby did.
You might ask her if she still has the login information, and then that would be
Or
the
to
easiest
add
way.
you,
Yeah,
she could just, it'd just be a matter of
Okay,
adding
let me-
somebody else as an admin person.
yeah.
I'll forward her email, which summarizes
Okay,
both Facebook and Instagram.
Bob, I had a suggestion as far as content is concerned. When I looked at the material, now maybe it's because of where I sit, I'm not sure, but the big headline and all of the publicity is we're going to do a new master plan. And my reaction was, geez, I thought a master plan had been underway for several years. And if you look at the timeline, it shows that it has been. And it seemed to me that we should say something slightly different from that so that it gives the impression that we're moving forward or activating or something, but not to give the impression that the whole thing is starting over and that everything that we all did the last 3 years is junk, because that's not true. But a person that knows a little bit about the master plan, but not a lot, I think could misinterpret that.
Okay, and I think that'll be a simple change.
I agree, but we
No,
should
it's a
all
good
agree on,
point.
we should all agree on
Yeah.
what the language is, what the simple change is going to be.
Yep.
I agree, it's a simple change, and it may be as simple enough, just as simple as to say, we're moving forward with a master plan.
I think that's all we need to do.
And that would be fine.
Okay,
It's just that to say, we're going to do a new master plan, I think misrepresents the work of this group.
I think it's a good point, Ken.
okay, I will get with Olivia first thing tomorrow morning and straighten that out, but it's a very good point.
Yeah. If nothing else, it preserves momentum.
Yeah, it certainly does. And to some degree, I'm a little bit frustrated that we've made a couple of significant changes in direction. I look back on where we were three years ago and thought, boy, if we'd continue in that direction, we probably would be a little bit further ahead, but that is what it is.
Can I make a proposal based on what Ken said?
Yep.
So it looks like the consistent sentence across all the materials is Bolton is writing a new master plan. And I wonder if we could just change that sentence across each image to our master plan is moving ahead. And because everything already says Bolton 2035 master plan, but something like that, our master plan is moving ahead, or the master plan is moving
His
ahead, or
master
something.
plan is moving ahead.
Yeah.
That's the sentence that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's the one that attracted my negative attention. And so, yeah, I don't care as much about exactly what it says. It's just not saying what it really does right at the moment.
One thing I will say is it does kind of bake in the idea of motion on the topic. It's great. I think it
Yep.
works.
Okay, so point made, it's absolutely valid. And I'll deal with Olivia in the morning to get that straightened out.
Sure.
So as far as social media, Ed, I owe you the information that Abby sent me probably a month ago. And we need to go from there. And if there are any issues with that, Abby is perfectly willing to get with us and resolve those, since she's very, very good at that.
All right.
And as always, she has moved ahead into a leadership position in a number of areas in her school.
Okay.
So she's the same old person that she's been since the beginning.
Sure.
Now, as far as getting with both Ken Cleveland and Cindy Bremer, Cindy, we can simply send the information. Has everybody taken a look at that text? Does anybody have a problem with that text, other than perhaps the headline?
No, but I guess the question about the website in general is if we see errors, grammatical or otherwise, how do you want to handle those?
Why don't you get them straight to me? I'll consolidate them and get them to Olivia.
All right.
Hey,
And at
Bob.
this point, Olivia is the main actor. Heather is kind of the overall project manager that steps in now and then, but Olivia's the one doing all the work. And I typically will send things to her, copy Heather out of courtesy and contract, and leave it with that.
Bob,
Yeah,
just a quick question on that same line of thinking. So when I was on the website, first question, is the website launched right now?
yes.
Okay, so if we want in terms of grammatical errors, there was a couple and they're minute, but they, it would clean it up to make it, sentences forgotten with no periods kind of thing.
Yep.
Is that something that I would send to you?
Yeah, I think probably the best way.
Okay, and I'll just distinguish that
And I'll
it's
pass it
on the
along just
website.
so that it's all coming from one location. I just don't want to confuse the relationship with BOC Group.
Yep, sure. Thank
You know,
you.
on a couple of occasions when they've had specific questions, for instance, they had some questions on graphics. They needed some information from Kia. They went directly to Kia and copied me. But wherever possible, I'd like to keep it,
Sure.
one point of contact. Somebody else would like to pick up that role, that's fine with me, but.
Now, Robert, you like it.
If I had more room on my plate, I would love to, sir.
Yeah, forget it, Todd.
Well, now you said that, now I want
Your
to.
plate is spilling over onto the table on a regular basis at the moment.
My apologies. I've always been messy.
Well, yes, well, the sooner we get you an administrative aid, July
sooner my-
1st, right, Brian?
The sooner my ulcer gets better. You're quite right.
Yeah, and that's something that Don and I have talked about, Todd and I have talked about, and it looks like it's really going to happen, that we will have a split administrative support person.
That'll be a
Or Todd.
godsend.
Website asked for were photographs
Right,
that were supposed to be sent to Brian.
that's correct.
What all would you like in that, Brian? And, do you want them to be recent or old or whenever, or, in what? How much would you really like? I mean, because I have a rather large photographic library, as you might imagine.
Yeah, I actually think it's probably for members of this committee, it's probably less important that you send them to me, but all we needed was, we just needed a way for people that aren't on the committee who may want to submit photos. So we use my town email address, but I don't have strong opinions about the content. I think my email address was being used as an instrumentality.
The conversation I had with Olivia in particular was she was just looking for good background photographs about Bolton, old, new, and interesting. It's things that characterize the town.
Okay,
So she wasn't specific about that. And I think, frankly, my perspective is it would be kind of nice to have some old pictures too.
Oh, Mary would have those.
Yeah. And, yeah.
so if we have some, do you want them, Ken? Who would like to be the repository?
You can send them to
Brian.
me. Yeah,
Look at
send them
Brian.
to,
Brian, okay.
Yep.
All right,
Okay, getting on to print media. Does somebody want to pick up wordsmithing as is appropriate, the document that Olivia put together, and get that off to Cindy? How do you want to handle that?
Certainly be willing to contribute to that. I don't know if you want me to lead it, but I can certainly contribute the review.
Well, Ken, can you take what she put together and wordsmith that? Keep in mind, it's sort of the same message, but it's something that is a little bit longer in print media.
Yeah, I think we could put a little bit more than, I was surprised that their long form was as short as it was.
It's a short, long form.
Yeah, but yeah, we can certainly do that.
Okay, and
But I'm happy to have
correspondence.
help from anybody else.
No, but I'd like to
Sasha,
get
if
that
you
out,
wanna-
Yeah, I'm happy to help. I wasn't quite sure what wordsmithing, where you were going with that, so I'm happy to.
Ken's good at this.
Well, if you just look at, did you read the long
Yeah,
form things you had? Yeah, okay, so it's just, is there something else we want? I mean, obviously, we want to make sure that it's grammatically correct, but is there something else we might want to say?
Okay.
But yeah, let's just give some thought to
Yeah,
that.
let's connect offline.
And
okay, so.
Bob, what is the time frame you're looking for to have it hit the
Well,
papers?
I hate to say it, but if we're gonna put
Next
stuff
week?
up on social media right away, we need to get it into the papers pretty quickly as well. I mean, I'm asking for an awful lot to try to get it to Cindy by her deadline of noon on Tuesday of next week, but.
I
if
think
that
he's
were
saying
possible-
Monday you need to get it done by.
Yeah.
Okay.
My last submittal, by the way, was Tuesday, but that's okay. And that was a week ago when it worked.
all right.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean,
So if you can do it, as Patty said, Monday.
This weekend, but we can certainly work on
Yeah.
it together.
so I mean, if I'm hearing you correctly, Bob, we're taking the long text section. We're just making sure that there isn't something more that we want to add to that.
Correct.
And making sure it's grammatically correct and all the information's correct. And then we are connecting with Cindy and Ken.
Yep.
So we're doing the item. Is
Yep.
Ken's with the item, right?
Ends at the item, yeah.
Yeah, they're both
Okay.
at the item.
And I thought Cindy Bremer was Stowe Independent.
Yes, she is.
Yes.
Stone,
Okay.
again, Stone Bolt.
Got it. All right, cool. And we're getting that text, this whatever, off to
Right,
them.
and
Okay.
they have different styles of editing.
Got it.
Cindy is very interested in getting our stuff, and she will basically reformat it slightly, and it goes into the paper. Ken, not, he looks at it differently. He'll take
Okay.
that information as background information, then he'll give somebody a call, talk about it a little bit, and then he'll write it up as an article under his byline.
Okay, got
so-
it.
Got a more creative turn to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's sort of as though it were an interview.
Okay,
Okay.
very good.
So that's, so now we have social media, we have the website, we have printed media. Last but not least, she did put together, and obviously it needs to be slightly reformatted to put it in the right context, flyers. that we need to get out to a number of places. So I'm looking for a volunteer. Annie,
What do you want this volunteer to do, Robert?
find homes for flyers.
I think I can do that.
But
We have a
Before you do
limited
that-
places you can put flyers, so I think I can handle that.
okay, so don't jump into it until I get back to you tomorrow with the results of my email and conversation with Livia about.
I'm not doing anything until you tell me they're ready.
Also, make sure that the long form information that we put in the paper
Jives.
doesn't conflict with the flyers, so.
Yeah.
So
The other
maybe,
thing you may
maybe
wanna
the thing that, yeah, what you may want to think about is trying to meet the deadline of the two papers for next week and then do the other stuff.
That's a good point. Yeah, and you may want to think also, and I'm not sure exactly how to do this, whether, as Kia has done in the past, include a graphic with certainly something that goes off to Cindy and possibly to Ken. I do know that the item has included graphics in their, highlighted articles.
Okay.
And so you'll have the graphics from whatever we get back from Olivia.
Who's gonna print out the flyers?
I'll be happy to do that.
All right, so I just get them from you.
Yeah, it does me a service as well, because if I don't use my color printer enough, it seizes up.
Oh dear, we wouldn't want that to happen.
No,
Good
it's happening.
Lord.
As Ed knows, and it's a real pain in the neck.
Serious.
Bob, were you
Especially-
suggesting graphics when you said to Cindy and Ken, is that something you're thinking we should submit along with the long text?
Yeah, I do. Don't simply replicate what's going out with social media, but I mean, as a header, for instance, the standard logo that we've been using for the master plan might be appropriate.
Do you or Kia have that in a digital format you could send me?
Kia does, I don't.
All right, I'll bug Kia. Thank you.
Oh, and by the way, that's something I could ask Olivia about, because Kia gave it to Olivia. So Olivia has it as well.
But attachments that she sent out?
I'm sorry, no, it's not on the PDFs. When she
Okay.
developed the PDF, she contacted
Okay,
Kia directly and got the high resolution logos.
okay.
Okay, so I think we have a plan there. Now, item 2. I'm concerned that we're not moving forward with a forum. I'd like to, as soon as we get the website going and roll that out, I think the next step is we need to get a forum and decide what the subject of the forum is, what the format of the forum is, start getting some hands-on interface between us and the townspeople and town boards. So I will have that conversation with her tomorrow. If you notice on the website, the overall sequence of events and the schedule suggests there ought to be forums, and we haven't discussed that at all. I think it's time for us to drive that rather than wait for them to go do that. I think there's been perhaps a little bit of a misunderstanding about who's in the driver's seat on this. Valerie left the impression that that BSC group ought to be in the driver's seat and we would provide information. We did have that conversation, but I don't see that working quite as well as I thought.
Okay.
So that I will have that conversation with her and with Heather tomorrow. So Heather is a key element of that conversation.
Sorry, Bob, can I just ask a question about that? So do you know like where things stand in terms of their drafting of different elements?
Not as much as I'd like to know. That's another part of it.
The reason I ask is because I'm just thinking like if we want to move ahead with a forum, I think it would be nice if a substantial part of it was kind of sharing
Yes,
some of the progress that they've made. And so, but I just don't know what that is, I guess, basically. So,
nor do I.
Okay.
And they've told me they're moving along well on that. Well, I'd like to see what constitutes well. And you're right, and it would help us a lot in terms of identifying subject matter that would be more appropriate for a forum. And I'd be interested in seeing what's coming back from the survey as well.
That's what I was gonna say. I saw the new survey online and I thought, well, geez, if we're soliciting, we need to give people some time to get on the website and take the survey.
Okay. Okay, two other things that have come up that are of interest. And they both relate to some degree to the planning board. Two issues, one of which is we've really not gone any further on our focused area review and communicating that and looking for an opportunity to work with the planning board on looking at a particular area that, we had identified one. I think it would be appropriate, not necessarily offline, but to have that conversation with the planning board and talk about the best way to handle it. So I will bring that up. Right now, incidentally, we have a bit of a challenge with the planning board in that we have an empty seat. Pete Driscoll is finishing his term and he is the chairman and he is not going to come back. And we're still missing an associate. So if anybody has any good ideas about somebody who would like to be part of Bolton's future and abused by the public on a regular basis, let me know.
I can attest to that on both counts.
Oh,
There've been some interesting meetings.
I see.
I like their
Having
colorful.
said that, I mean, that goes with any position in town government to some degree, less so in some. But I think it is still a tremendous opportunity for people to get involved in the future of the town. Master plan is fine, and is very important. But on a day-to-day basis, implementing various philosophies about the future of Bolton is very importantly handled by the planning board. So if anybody has any thoughts about somebody who would be willing to run, we don't have an awful lot of time.
Right.
It's
So,
only a matter of weeks. Really.
yeah, about, we have better, just a little bit more than a week.
Right. Are there any names floating around?
No.
Not
I
yet.
mean, like Stasha
They
or
didn't even
Molly
show
or
up at
somebody?
caucus.
What about
I'm
Stasha?
so
What
overcommitted
about
at school
Stasha or
right now.
Molly?
I
Hello,
can't, do
Molly.
it, guys. I would love to, but I can't right now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And also, we got to find someone for advisory because his young man over here is going to be a selectman. So,
Right.
Yay, Brian. That was a happy.
hey, listen, there's still another week or so. I might have an opponent.
oh dear God, Brian, save me! Just
Opponent
save,
would have, that
save me
opponent
from
would have
this.
materialized.
Yeah, it ain't gonna happen.
Oh, I've been on mute. Oopsie. Sorry.
So Molly,
Yes, hi.
hi. We were just talking about the planning board and the need for a new member of the planning board.
I mean, I don't want to be rude, Molly, but peer pressure.
Good luck, Molly.
I just think Candy gets me into everything. I can't say
Yeah,
no.
you can't have Molly. I need her. Anyhow, her husband's on advisory now. She's, we
Fair
need to
enough,
pick
fair
on somebody else.
I'll
No.
find somebody.
And Molly's
I-
on COA, so no, you can't have her.
What's needed in planning board?
We have a
I'll start
full-time
harassing my
regular
friends.
seat as well as an open associate level seat,
Yeah.
and no friendly, service-oriented warm bodies to fill them.
But it's because no one's really gone looking. I have to say, this is Penny's big bugaboo. In when Ken and I were more involved than we are right now, every committee looked for new members for their own committees. At least they made an effort. They don't do this anymore. They sort of wait for someone to drop from heaven, and it just doesn't work that way.
No.
And
Oh,
you
so
gotta
that's
go
where I
find
dropped
people.
from, huh?
Molly knows. I went and dragged her onto the COA.
I did reach out to a couple folks, but one of them I
But
thought
it's
was a
not your
good lead.
job. It's the committee members. They live in this town.
I'm aware, but I'm still here to help. So
You
I
can
did reach
help,
out.
but it just,
Okay, I don't want to belabor this, but on the other hand, I want to belabor this.
he agrees with me.
But Molly, please seriously think about it.
I'm sorry, you can't have her. She's on the Council on Aging.
I'm sorry, that's no longer an excuse.
Oh,
Reason you can't do more than one thing. You've proved that,
stop it,
Penny.
you two.
But you proved that.
Kenneth,
What?
stop it.
End of discussion.
End of
I
discussion.
just want to make this immortalized on record. I'm finding this endlessly more entertaining than you think.
You noted, Penny, you noticed that I didn't ask you or Ed,
Yes.
that I asked the youngins if
The
they.
youngins. Well,
step
there are
up.
other youngins out there. We just have
Well,
to go
that's fine.
find them.
But none of them was on the Zoom meeting right now.
Yeah, right. Don't
Who
pick
had
on
any
Molly.
experience. They both have
I
vast.
know, it's terrible.
experience.
Yes. We'll start
Okay,
looking,
so-
Robert.
And that's my concern. I think it's, it's great to have a master planning committee and move ahead with the master plan, but at the same time, to a very large degree, the rubber meets the road in the planning board. And we really do need people who are interested in the town's future, are interested in getting directly involved with it, and frankly, helping to plan. And again, I think it's important that younger people, as opposed to elderly like Penny, Ken, and me.
Watch what you call elderly. Thank you very much.
I just did.
Waiting for that.
But Robert, we're assuming that if we come up with someone, you will sit and talk to them about
I
being
will.
on the planning board.
I certainly will.
Now,
As
I
will
got
I.
a question about the associate. Is that appointed? It's not elected.
Yes, it is appointed.
It's a point.
Okay, so there's one elected and one appointed.
That's correct.
Okay. And you can do a write-in even if they miss the deadline.
It's
True, yeah.
suboptimal, but you can.
True.
Yeah, right, Brian? They can do a write-in. If they come up with someone.
Yes.
I'm just having agenda anxiety about the fact that none of this is on our agenda for tonight.
Okay.
No, don't start
That's
worrying
fair.
about agenda anxiety.
No, well, but I did want to ask, I don't know if this is relevant, but for our next meeting, if we do have time, I know that I personally feel a little disconnected from what has been before the planning board over the course of the past year. And I know that they're holding off on putting any articles on the warrant this year, but if there's anything that the master plan steering committee should just be generally updated about,
Mhm.
like stuff on the
makes
planning
sense.
board, maybe you could talk about that next meeting. And if there's nothing,
Yes.
don't worry about it.
No,
And
I
if there
think
are
that's
other
a
boards
bunch of
that have
things.
things sitting on, waiting for things to go that aren't on this calendar, but are for next.
Well, and I am also having agenda anxiety right now. But there are some things that I've been working on in understanding better what's going on with residential development and open space in Harvard, and the kind of work they've been doing. I've shared that with the planning board and with Todd, and I think it's very, very important for the master plan committee to understand that, but I don't want to get into that this evening. I'd like to talk about that in more detail in the next meeting. And I do have,
Put it on the agenda.
I will, and,
So Brian doesn't
Yeah.
have agenda anxiety.
right,
I've been keeping up on that too, Bob. I
Yeah, and put the non,
a lot of interesting
the
stuff.
non-subdivision planning, integrated planning issue on the agenda also. Because
Well, as Todd-
that's very appropriate for the master plan, it seems to me.
right. Well, Todd has received a list from me very recently about a number of things that need to be looked at.
Yes, indeed.
And a lot of it is, I don't want to get into detail. We'll talk about that in the future. But a lot of it is basically a review of where we are in a number of our issues on the planning board and how in the future we can avoid such issues and how we can anticipate the challenge of less developable land in the town with more development pressure. I'll leave it at that.
Mhm.
But that's something that I think is critically important. There are a number of ways we can attack it. Some of them are tactical and some of them are strategic. And we're looking at both, and I'll get back to you on all of the above.
Whilst
But
remaining
point is
not
well
purely
taken.
reactionary.
Do I recall we were going to focus on the southwest side of the 495 interchange as a focus area?
That's correct.
Okay.
And
So
I
what's
think
left on our agenda, Robert?
that's it. And I will put those on the agenda for the next meeting. And I will get back to everybody tomorrow about my conversations and emails with Olivia and Heather.
Thanks, Bob, for all you're doing.
Yeah.
You bet.
I wish I could.
This is
do-
after he got COVID because he went away and sat in the sun and ran around in a rainforest.
I
Right.
don't know. I was in a rain.
No good
most of
vacation
the
gets
time.
punished except to coming down with COVID.
Right.
He says I was in a rainforest. I hear I fled the country. Yeah, it's hard to
Right.
say.
I went to see a volcano and never saw it because of the mist.
Oh,
Ouch, 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 ouch.
Just a point
Okay,
of
well,
information,
thanks very much, unless
do we
there
know-
are other things.
do we know the status of 580 Main Street?
Tom,
In terms of what, sir?
When it's gonna
Gonna
start,
happen? Has it been approved? When work
Oh,
will start?
Yeah, 580 means already been well past approved. That
Okay.
decision was rendered. It was constructed by town council shortly after my arrival here in Bolton.
Right.
Right now, we're waiting for construction valuations so we can, finish the permitting process and actually get the valuations for the permitting and inspections. For the
so when do you think, just a guesstimate, we won't hold you to it. When do you think it's gonna start?
I don't believe in crystal balls, but I'd say they'll probably likely start within probably 3 to 4 months, I would say.
I-
So probably
About the
by
same time that the Rotary starts by the high school?
yeah, they might coincide in that way. It's hard to tell for now because the developers over at 580 haven't been entirely responsive necessarily.
Mhm.
But they've assured me that as soon as they get that valuation in, we can start working with building department to get those inspections scheduled, paid for.
I can share that in our revenue projections for FY24 for the finance committee,
Mhm.
we did project at least a half year's worth of potential permits and things
Yeah.
like that. So we're not
It's-
expecting it to go online July 1, but
Right.
Yeah, it's. I was talking with Mike, our building inspector and zoning enforcement. There's going to be we were calculating exactly how many hundreds of inspections are due to take place from onset to completion. It's. I think last I checked, we were at 580 paradoxically.
God.
Funny enough, something along that line. But either way, that was all just kind of napkin math sort of estimates. So until we get more concrete data, it's hard to say.
Yeah,
with any
people keep asking when they think it'll get started.
Sure. I mean, if nothing else, you can let them know that the folks that are most in the know aren't even all that in the know quite yet. So,
Amazing.
It's the blind
Nice
leading the
summary,
blind,
Tom.
right?
well, I don't have one eye, but I got like one eye half open, pretty
Well,
much.
that's,
Enough
that's
not to
step in the
walk
right
in the woods.
direction.
Okay, having heard that, do I have a motion for adjournment?
I move we adjourn.
Deciding on a meeting.
I was just gonna ask,
Yeah,
Ken,
Oh,
you and I, man.
Let's go back to our regular schedule
so you,
Well,
when do you
I
want
don't
it?
know what that is, but
for
it seems to
Thursday.
me we could pick out a,
4:23, no,
but I would suggest that we meet more, that at least this meeting be less than a month. Because it
3:23,
seems to me,
2 weeks?
I
sure.
was looking at the 30th myself, but
Oh, that's fine.
that's just me. I don't know.
That's fine.
That's fine with me.
3:30?
Which day is this?
Thursday, the 30th.
Yeah.
Coming up, I will not be able to attend that. My gal has an eye doctor's appointment there that I will not be able to attend for.
Okay.
Well, do you want to have it at a different time?
I'm flexible, really. Just that particular one, it's an important procedure. She must be
Do we
present.
have to do it on a Thursday or can we switch to another day?
I'm fairly open that
I'd
week.
like to, in the future, I'd like to keep it consistent, but if on this particular occasion, we need to move it,
on Wednesday, the 29th?
Planning board meeting on the 29th?
Seems reasonable.
That I could work that. Yeah, that could work.
And the
well,
planning
before I
board's not
commit,
meeting
let me
then.
quickly look at my calendar.
Planning board usually meets every 2 weeks, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, so they'd be on the 22nd.
yeah, the planning board's the 22nd.
Yeah.
Okay, so
29th
I'm all
looks good to
set.
me.
So we'll do the 29th?
You want to make that tentative, Bob?
No, let's make it.
Okay.
7
Yes,
PM?
Yep.
7. Yeah.
Thanks for that little reminder,
And-
Ken.
And then the next meeting after that will be April 27th, which is a
Yeah, we'll
Thursday.
shift back to the regular.
Yeah, go back to the regular schedule.
Okay. Okay.
Okay,
Lovely. Thank you, everybody.
Okay,
okay, now we need to vote on the adjournment. Thank you.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night.
Everybody.
Take care.